It is totally amazing. Well, I want to welcome everybody. This is the second in this series for Comeback New York. And I'm Arthur Rosenfield, and I am very happy to be here, and thank you for coming. I do this, I started last August doing this as a way to bring people together, to bring people back to New York City. And now my working theme, I'm working on this theme, that this is, New York City is a Mecca. And it's very important that we all recognize that everybody comes from all over the world to live and work and be productive in New York City. And we have a wonderful guest speaker who has helped to make New York City what it is. And it's really kind of an amazing thing. I think one guy and his partner can help to make New York City what it is by bringing housing to all those people at that time, and then also expressing his points of view in the political arena. I'm happy to have the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce as a place and as a partner to do this with. And Mark Jaffe is here, I'm going to bring up in a minute, to talk about the Chamber and just make some welcoming remarks. We have a candidate for mayor sitting in somewhere here, over here, Guadalia Amelia, and she's a very interesting woman, has some great points of view, and if you have a chance to talk to her, it's a very worthwhile experience. I have, on this Mecca theme, I started last week talking a little bit about my own journey here, which was back in 1969 to come to New York City, because at that time New York City was the capital of advertising, marketing, and promotion. And I wanted to be the genius who worked in one of these big advertising agencies, like at that time Doyle Dane, Bernbach, and J. Walter Thompson, and we had this huge. This was the place. Media, advertising, everything happened here, and I wanted to be in that world. And I went to have an interview with a magazine publisher, and the creative director wanted to hire me to do magazine covers. And he waltzed me into the publisher of the magazine, and the magazine publisher discovered that I had sold big ticket items to earn my way through college, and he said, well, you really should sell advertising space. And that was the beginning of a change in my life. Like it happened like that. I thought I was going to be in the creative part of advertising, and I suddenly was selling advertising space. And then later on, being very successful in that, I was selling media companies, and then I also became a developer in the internet space as that unfolded. So things can change here in New York all the time, but the most important thing is that this Mecca that we all are part of is successful for all of us and all of our American dreams, because it really is a place that creates and fosters imagination and creativity, entrepreneurship, and ultimately freedom, which is what we all like. And we've brought people from all over the world to be here to express their great freedom and their ability to create things and their ability to make the world a little better place from this little island that we're on. And it's such an important thing to recognize that it's because of that, it's because of the entrepreneurship, the creativity, the imagination of the people who come here, and the fact that we have the best people in the world here from all different countries, from all different walks of life, that makes this city so strong. And that's the reason why people are going to come back. And we have to do some things to straighten out our justice system and to get the streets cleaner and safer and subways safer. But COVID, unfortunately, was a terrible thing, but we're going to get over that. And it's so important, and the reason why I feel I'm on the board of directors for the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce, Mark made that possible, and it's so important for real estate people, small businesses who are basically the tenants of real estate people, and the financial community to work together to bring this city to back to its 2019 position of strength, and we will get there. So Mark, come on up here and say a couple words about the chamber. Entice everybody to become a member. I'm forming a real estate committee for the chamber to create more stuff with my partner Mark. He wants members, and we're going to get him members.
Okay, so Arthur is on our board of directors. He's a mensch, as we say. And as you can see, here we are in the middle of, at the end of a pandemic. I'm sorry, we're not in the middle anymore. And Arthur is open air, and we're going to be doing more of these face-to-face events, is what the Greater New York Chamber is known for, networking and opportunity. We have over 30,000 business and civic leaders that participate at our events every year, and we have a lot of active members. And Arthur has stepped up here to share something that we're not that strong in, real estate. And we have Paul Massey, who's made a living out of real estate. Such a great living that he was asked to run for mayor of New York against a terrible mayor. You all know who he is. He's leaving office for term limit. And we'll get a new mayor very soon. And right here we have the co-chair of our Political Action Committee, Adam Clayton Powell, and he's actually working for one of the candidates that we interviewed. And that candidate has a very good shot of being the next mayor. On April 7th, our Political Action Committee is going to be interviewing Andrew Yang for mayor. And we've interviewed all the top political candidates, and you can check that out at chamber.nyc. And we'll be making a selection of who will be the best for the small business person, the entrepreneur, the startup. It's not just about big business. Hey, I know big business. I'm a lawyer, I'm a politician, I'm a mensch. I know big business, but big business may not have your back because you're trying to claw your way into a survival situation. We have to let the elected officials, whether it's Chuck Schumer or Kristen Gillibrand, know that what we need. We have to let Governor Cuomo know what we need. We have to let Tish James know what we want to protect. We have to let our elected officials who are privileged to serve us know what we need. And that's what the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce is about. What do we need? So let us know what you need. Call 212-CHAMBER. Email me. I'm Jaffe, Jaffe, at chamber.nyc. And we're here to help you. And we look forward to hearing what Paul Massey has to say about the new real estate market. Let's face it, with Zoom making 300% profits, real estate is going to take a hit. But that may be a good thing. Maybe we'll get people that are homeless paying some rent. Not just putting them up wherever they want, but in the available housing. And we'll get some federal money for that. So Arthur, again, I want to thank you for taking your personal time to serve as our board of directors and now stepping up to strengthen our real estate committee. And everybody in here I know is involved in real estate should join the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce. We have a political action committee, we have a military and veterans affairs committee, we have an MWB committee. And on that note, I'm going to stop talking, but I have to remind you on Thursday, coming up here, is that the 24th or the 25th? I think it's the 25th. We're doing a Zoom. We're honoring Women's History Month. Zoom. We have some great honorees. It's on our website, chamber.nyc, and you all should participate. So without much further comment, I'll turn it back to Arthur, who will bring up our guest speaker, Mr. Paul Massey. Thank you for your public service and your great devotion to the city of New York.
So one thing that my friend forgot to mention is I'm also helping the chamber to establish a tourism committee and for hospitality, actually a hospitality committee, and some of our speakers in the very near future are going to be very prominent people from the hospitality and tourism market, because it's all interconnected. If the hotel business doesn't succeed, if the people who serve that market and Broadway don't succeed, then the city doesn't have its lifeblood. So now turning my remarks to my friend Paul. I was thinking about, what we really are trying to accomplish here is to have leaders with vision talk about the future of New York City And we have with us somebody who long ago had the vision to dissect the city with his partner and create, district by district sales for real estate, which really hadn't been done. He created a powerhouse company, a real estate company, that brought people into neighborhoods, and he had people specializing. And you've all heard the phrase, smaller is better. Well, he concentrated the efforts of the people working in the company to just neighborhoods that they really could be expert in. And it's such an important concept, and it was such a visionary thing that it became the largest organization in the city. At that time was sold, I think it was $100 million, I can't remember the exact number. It was something like that, to Cushman Wakefield, and then Paul went on to run Cushman Wakefield for a bunch of years. And now, again, block by block, recognizing the neighborhoods, recognizing that the people in the neighborhoods are so different, such diversity. This is not a homogeneous city. So managing the process of bringing people in from wherever they want to come from to be in New York City and be in the neighborhood that they most identify with is such an important thing. And he's done this. And we look around the city and how it has emerged, with such strength because of the strength of the neighborhoods. And I did a whole study on these neighborhoods when I was doing my work in real estate. And it's so important to understand the complexity of the neighborhoods. If you go to Ditmars Boulevard right now, you would never know there was a pandemic. It's like fully alive, and not like Lexington Avenue. So we all have to understand that. Now, Paul, I want to just add to this. Paul has always been available to me, and last year I was the president and CEO interim president and CEO of the National Realty Club. And I reached out to Paul and I said, would you be my first vice president? And he said, right away, yes. And so I think that not just vision, but the ability to take action and want to contribute. And I agree with what Mark said. Thank you for your service. It's and that service also included a platform for, at that time, the Republican Party. For his vision for what he wanted for New York City as a candidate for mayor. So anybody who steps up to that level and puts their money up at that level is, and their voice is really, a visionary person. So I want you to welcome, please, Paul Massey.
Thank you, Arthur. So we have a new real estate services business that's 2 years old. So we represent people selling apartment buildings, store buildings, small office buildings, but we're all over the city. So we have teams in all the markets, and we've been through the pandemic thinking, how are we staying together? We're on Zoom calls together. We have a big sales force out there in the city, but we can't. Especially during the beginning of all this, we couldn't be together. So I'm thinking these sales meetings are getting really dry, and trying to focus on what is going to keep the team together, what's going to interest our folks. And I have an old friend who's a pretty renowned historian named Kevin Draper. And I said, Kevin, can you come talk to our sales force and just amuse them? Tell them something they didn't know about the city they love. And he said, Paul, I've got just the thing. So he showed up on one of our Zoom calls. It's probably 6 months ago. And he said, so I bet none of you realize that New York City has had a pandemic in every century. Really, a serious, terrible pandemic in every century. Cholera in the 1600s, typhoid in the 1700s, the Spanish flu in 1918, and now this. 4 massive pandemics where people fled the city. At the time he said it, I'm thinking he's full of it, but he said for 1.5 years or 2 years, people will leave. I'm thinking, it can't be that long, but yet here we are. And he said, but after every pandemic, people came rushing back into the city. The economy exploded, restaurants and bars were packed, cultural institutions thrived, and our sales force marched off that Zoom call with hope. with hope and a belief in this city. And I believe it. I think that's where we are. I think we're going to have a euphoric moment over the next 3 or 4 months where the weather's going to be nice, lots of shots in arms. The kids are coming. My own kids are in their late 20s. They're talking to their friends about we better get back in there before we miss the good deals on rents. So I think we're at a really good inflection point. And by the way, I would love this to be a conversation for a few minutes about what you all want to talk about. Arthur and Mark, great old friends. Some new friends, Gudalia, good for you for stepping up and for your service too. But really fun to be. This is my first talk in a year, and I was really looking forward to it. I've got the vaccine. I'm feeling great, and I think that's going to continue on for a lot of people. But just a few things to set the stage, maybe for a conversation. Things I'm worried about. I'm worried about some serious damage to restaurants, bars, hospitality. I'm worried about, in our business, in our world, the state legislature has put rent regulations into a place where the real estate market for apartment buildings is tanked. Buildings are worth half of what they were from 2 years ago. I don't know if any of you are following that, but whether you're in the real estate business or not, you should know that the city has a $97 billion budget, and $45 billion of that budget comes from taxing income from apartment buildings, like I'm talking about the million rent-regulated apartment buildings, for the purposes of helping lower-income folks and middle-income folks. But the issue is that the city's budget is going to have a $10 billion hole in it from eliminating net income from these buildings. So whoever was thinking of helping folks is just hurting people. And what is the first thing that's going to go in this city if there's a $10 billion budget shortfall in real estate? Social programs, right? So we want to help folks who need help, but the city and the state have really put a hurt on themselves, right? Those are the things I worry about. Things I don't worry about, Arthur's talking about the city, which is Mecca. I think it's always going to be Mecca. And I think the whole country wants us to be the capital of the world. Some people begrudgingly, but we want to be the capital of the world, and the financial capital of the world, the cultural capital of the world. I don't worry about the city long term. I think think about things like the office building market, right? It's going to come booming back. This work at home thing, forget it. I mean, I can see 5% of the people thinking I'd like to work at home. A handful of people, depending on your exact, if you're a software engineer, maybe. But people need to be with people, especially in services business like ours. I think the city's going to be in a huge state of coming back all summer, which I really love. So just to wrap, I'm a kid from Boston. Sam and I were talking about growing up in Boston. We went to, the schools that were very near each other, and I got a job in real estate as a college kid at Coldwell Banker Commercial at the time, which is now CBRE, and loved it, and went back there, and they wouldn't give me a job in Boston. So I went to one of my friends who worked at the company. I said, how can I not get a job at your company? I was a terrible student, by the way, so I wasn't gonna compete with my classmates for Colgate-Palmolive training program job. But I convinced them. They said to me, well, we're brand new in New York City, and they'll take anybody in New York right now. So being so perfectly qualified, I came down here. My battle plan was, I went to school in upstate New York, too. I went to Colgate, so I knew a lot of kids who were coming here. So my plan was come here for 6 months, maybe maximum 9 months, and then go back and get the job that I thought I wanted in Boston. And I got here, and I don't even remember when the realization hit me. This is too good. I'm never leaving here. And met my wife, had our family, grew our business. I'm a lucky guy who loves his job and loves his family, and here we are. So that's my thought. Love to hear your questions if they relate to real estate or just a comment on the world. Do you agree that we're going to be in euphoric times in a couple months? I'd love to hear from you.
Paul, when you say it's going to come back, we all believe it's going to come back, but as it relates to investing, patient money versus cash flow now, it's a very different investor profile. You can invest for something that's going to come back 3 years from now, 5 years from now, to somebody that's going to invest for something that's going to come back in a year.
So Sammy's family has a fantastic real estate portfolio in Boston, and his property's probably all over the place. But I think the answer in real estate, to the extent that any of you are curious about that, is that it depends what we're talking about, right? Every asset class is going to be, I thought the retail asset class, the stores, had hit bottom right before the virus. I thought technology's killed everyone they're going to kill, and this is bottoming out. Wrong. I mean, I think it's down another 30 or 40%. And
I can tell you it's very different outside.
Really, yeah. So I'm involved with a national company that's a mall company, that's a supermarket anchored strip mall company. They're 95% filled. Fantastic. That's fantastic. We are in our own little bubble. My buddy, who's the CEO of this mall company, who is my college roommate, which is why I'm involved, came to New York 6 months ago, and he goes, I got to get out of here. You guys are depressed. So I think, you know what, people don't know. People in our industry would be shocked if they heard your stat, which I believe. So.
Can I ask you a question? New York changed dramatically when the big box stores all came to town and all the national brands came to town and drove out the mom and pop shops, the boutiques, the small cafes, to the big renters. The ones who had the money were the big box stores and those big companies and the chain stores and all of that. And our last speaker last week had mentioned he believed that the city's going to be booming, but with all these small boutiques, mom and pop, outside cafes, like you would see in France or Italy, and that's how the city will bounce back. And I kind of believe that, because the first stores that really closed after some of the problems we had during the summer with the riots, with you have all of Fifth Avenue, the jewel of retail, is dead because they all closed and they ran. And so, what are your thoughts about that?
It's scary what happened. I mean, Madison Avenue went pre-virus from $1,500 a foot rent to $300 a foot rent. I mean, wow, dramatic, dramatic. And if anyone owns or knows anyone owns anything on Madison Avenue, I didn't say $300. You know what's funny? My wife, we brought the kids up in Larchmont, which is a suburb, just really southern Westchester, and she's so funny. She sees me ordering something on Amazon. She goes, "You're lazy. Walk up the hill and buy something from that guy on the corner." But I don't worry. I think personal services businesses are gonna do really, really well. They were doing well. They were settling in pre-pandemic. So I think that's what's going to happen. I think look, technology is technology, and there's been massive change. But I think all that massive change already happened. It's already built into the system. So I think you're going to have people really embracing and supporting local businesses that are personal services businesses or niche businesses that people want to go in and poke around in the wine cellar, whatever it is. So I think you're right that the first big businesses that got hit were the big boxes, and there's been massive change in that market. Sammy doesn't have a lot of those. So yes.
I'm curious of your thoughts about how to get private investors interested in affordable housing. Typically, when I talk to some other investors, they see that as a government problem. The government's going to fix that, and they don't really want to get involved. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, so we have a huge housing shortage in New York. You hear about the condo market being, flooded with inventory. I think we have a housing shortage, and we also have a housing crisis for middle-income folks and lower-income folks. And if you think about the fact that our housing stock is 85 years old on average, we've got a deteriorating housing stock. We're probably going to see population increases according to demographic experts. We need to build housing because we don't want to live in a barbell society. We don't want all rich folks and lower income folks. You've got to have a middle class in this city because we all want to be here together. So we've got to create affordable housing. What's going on with the city now, and don't let me bash the mayor too much, but we have zoning in New York City that allows for development and building that's been in place since 1960. It works really well. If you're a developer and you buy a parcel of land where you could develop affordable housing, you know how big the building is you can build, you know what the tax programs are that let you defer real estate taxes on the whole project in return for delivering affordable housing. A portion of the building is affordable housing. Program works great. What the city did was, out of panic over the homelessness crisis, which is a real crisis, and affordable housing need, started one-offing their negotiations with every developer. So if someone does a major project, the city comes in at the end of the project and says, by the way, we need you to dedicate a portion of this building for homeless folks, and we want more affordable housing. You've already bought the land, built the building, you have a bank, you have equity partners, and the city's jerking you around at the last minute. Over and over again, they did this. And it totally threw a cold bucket of water on housing creation, where we have in the past had very formulaic programs for building housing. We got to get back to trust our zoning, let people, the government should not be in the business of building affordable housing because they will mess it up. I mean, who's the #1 person on the New York City's worst landlord list? Bill de Blasio, right? So I'm not wildly political. I probably should have run as a Democrat. I'm a socially minded person, financially responsible person. That's probably a centrist Democrat, really. I had a great time running for office, and I hope you do too. It's a great city, and I thought I knew the city because our business was in every part of the city, but I really learned the city. There are 75 distinct neighborhoods. Everyone cares about different things, but they all love being here. So you can work with that, right? And you can celebrate that. So I think affordable housing is our #1 issue in New York City, and educating the million kids that are in our public school system is the second thing. And that's another thing that, like, we need to think about and, support and do something about.
I want to emphasize some of what you said earlier, and perhaps disagree with some of what you just said. But earlier you talk about the energy, New York City post-pandemic, and I do agree. I mean, I've told my friends, I believe the energy after we get out of this, whether it be in the fall, the winter, it's going to be out of sight. Much more than it used to be 2019, 2018. It's going to be amazing. People are, ready, willing, and able to come back, those who have moved out, ready, willing, and able to go out and experience New York and be a part of it again. New York is New York, it's the capital of the world. So the energy is going to be there, the business boom is going to be tremendous. Now, as far as your last point regarding affordable housing, I don't see how there can be affordable housing created within the private market alone. I think government has to have a role. The private market alone, especially in New York, with the construction costs, cannot create affordable housing. So we have to go back to perhaps the 1950s, 1960s, the federal plan where they build so much. The federal government is out of the affordable housing business, but perhaps that's what we need to do.
That's not what he said, though. What he said was that the city is not living up to what they said they were going to give for for abatements,
Okay.
and they don't even.